Atletico Bilbao managed only a few shots this game, but that masks the fact that they were able to repeatedly expose Barcelona, specifically Engen and Battier, and the distances that they had to cover in transition. So we're going to show how Atletico Bilbao managed to achieve that, starting in the second minute with Atletico Bilbao building up in this 2-3-3-2 shape versus Barcelona's 4-1-4-1, except you have Bruce, the left winger, rush in from that left-hand side and put pressure towards the centre of the park. She was able to do this because behind her, Anya Battier was happy to try and jump from helping cover Engen versus Ascona or Oses to go and press Anyorga. Whilst I'm mentioning Anyorga, herself and Novardo, the two fullbacks, could on occasion tuck inside and invert. They did this to help the three midfielders of Ortega, Pinedo and Cerro to be able to take up position behind this Barcelona midfield. Unfortunately, Atletico Bilbao started quite shakily, getting caught on this occasion, but on other occasions, Nan Clares, the goalkeeper, was really good at being able to play over this first wave of Barcelona pressure and play it into those three midfielders. And so the pattern of the game is established with Barca building up in this 2-3 or 3-1 shape. I say 2-3 because technically Guijarro is the CDM, flanked at least initially by Battier and Torrejon, but as play progresses, typically Battier essentially becomes a left winger, allowing Brugge to be able to tuck inside, and then Barca does what Barca does and heavily overloads the near side. This involves the false 9 dropping, as well as also your two number 8s in Vicky and Piña also coming over to the near side. This was against what was meant to be a 4-1-3-2. That 4-1-3-2 did quite well in compressing space near side, but even when they did win the ball back, the Barca counter press was really useful, especially in the first half of breaking down their counter-attack. Okay, first, we can see that 4-1-3-2 here, but I also thought this was quite a nice position because it shows the amount of space that Barca could end up with far side, and on occasion they actually did switch it out to that side, but to avoid any misplaced passes from which Atletico Bilbao could break, Barca typically played it safe, just retreated into their centre-backs or goalkeeper, eventually playing out towards the far side. And of course, with Barca retreating to their goalkeeper, that's also a benefit to them. With the 4-1-3-2 contain or cover being drawn higher up the pitch, potentially creating more space for Barca to exploit in what is meant to be a 2-3-2-3 shape. Although of course the left back for Barca is always trying to creep as high as they can. Okay, this was one of the main reasons I really liked this scenario early on. We get to see how this 4-1-3-2 was so frustrating for Barca to play through in those wide spaces because they could mark all of the short options. So we've got pressure on the defenders as well as also Vicky and Mariona when they're dropping to try and help link the attack and defense. On this occasion, it turns into a counter-attacking opportunity with great runs being made. Fortunately, poor choices made. It's kind of the pattern of the game. With that poor pass and Barca regaining possession, it gives them license to be able to get the ball out towards that left-hand side. For me, this space that Barca can exploit when they beat the Atletico Bilbao press and the amount of space that Atletico have to concede, in that I'm talking about the fact that they're going to have to drop 30, 40 yards and set up their defense again there, is likely what contributed to them changing to more of a 4-4-2 system instead. Okay, so first, this is Caldente. This is your centre forward, and she's deeper than your fullback, both of your number 8s, and likely both of your wingers too. Also consider Onabatier and Torrejon. Whilst Onabatier essentially was a left winger in possession, Torrejon also supported Graham Hansen in the right-hand side channel, but regardless, when the ball progressed to a point where it could be crossed into the box, the far side fullback will get into a position in case if the ball is overhit, they'll be able to contest it. See, for example, Torrejon's goal where she's actually in the 6-yard box. On this occasion, Atletico managed to defend and actually start a counter-attack of their own. Passes in this right-hand side channel were Atletico Bilbao's best means of chance creation. Essentially, they could take advantage of the fact that the left-back Battier is basically playing left winger, and Guijarro often could get drawn up the pitch too, such that Ascona or SS can get into a 1v1 foot race against Engen. And so Atletico Bilbao were trying to press on this weak spot in Barcelona's rest defense. Unfortunately, as with most of Atletico Bilbao's counterattacks, it came to naught. So Barca set up into their 2-3 or 2-4 deep shape against the 4-1-3-2. But on this occasion, we see them try that switch out towards this right-hand side for Graham Hansen, but it's intercepted, and we get to see what I mentioned about the potential danger that can cause, with again potential dangerous runs in behind. But in a true defender's fashion, Novardo decides to retain possession, which I actually really like, not just because it gives her team the chance for a breather, but also lets us be able to see their 2-3 4-1-3-2 shape against Barca's lopsided 4-1-4-1 shape. So again, Bruce is doing what she did during the press, where she comes narrow into more of a left forward kind of position so that they can mark all of the short options. And then of course that puts pressure on Battier, who's going to have to cover an immense amount of ground if she's jumping to try and press out towards Anyorga. Okay, so in our 2-3-3-2 shape, we've got a lot of work that needs to be done by this 3 in midfield for Atletico Bilbao. Basically what they're trying to do is drop to try and link play, but not all at once. So one will do it. On this occasion, Ortega could drop, but then the others have to try and help the forwards to threaten in behind, really stretching Barcelona, who are obviously trying to keep a high line and support the fact that their other midfielders are trying to press higher up the pitch. So we get to see that here with Ortega having dropped, now under pressure, but the rest of our forwards are looking to threaten that high line. Unfortunately, this attack doesn't really come to much. Okay, moving on slightly towards the 7th minute, we get to see that same 2-3 deep build-up with the 3 midfielders just in behind the 4 midfield of Barcelona's press, with Barca really trying to push the point and win possession high up the pitch. And of course, with their intensity, they're able to do that. And on this occasion, we get to see a driven pass switch by Vicky into Battier far side. This space that Battier has isn't just a coincidence. It's due to a number of factors, such as Atletico Bilbao playing this 3 in midfield, but then also Bruch's taking up this narrow position to make sure that Anyorga has to stay with her and she can't try and cheat and rush out towards Battier early. Barca are the masters of pinning defenders, keeping them honest to create space for others. Another attacking sequence that I thought was worth highlighting was the unselfish runs of the number 8s for Barcelona. So yes, they would come towards the near side and try and help combine with the wide midfielder, but they're also really happy to make those in to out runs, which allow them to either receive through balls or alternatively drag defenders away from the central area, which is the most dangerous area to allow opponents into. And this allowed Graham Hansen to be able to do her favourite thing and cut inside and get into a position where she could try and whip a shot in. They'd try this on numerous occasions, and in the second half, when she started swapping from left wing to right wing and back again, this is essentially the sequence of play that allowed her to be able to score from the left hand side. On this occasion, Graham Hansen's able to try and get a through ball for Bruchs, who, as we mentioned, is starting a lot more central given the fact that Battier is basically playing as a left winger. And so we can see that as the players progress, Battier is going to try and sneak in at the back post. And so when Bruchs gets into a position to be able to cross, you'll not only have a number 8 and a forward, you'll also have a fullback contesting the cross. Fortunately for Atletico Bilbao, they were able to weather this storm. Okay, next I wanted to have a look at the 46th minute because Giraldez decided to make a few positional tweaks, starting with Piña. We can see that she's not starting between the lines. Instead, she's starting almost just this like inverted left back position, and that allows Battier to move from more of a left back position basically to a left wing position, even during this deeper part of the build up. As we showed on other occasions, this kind of positioning pins the Atletico defense, preventing them from being able to cheat and get out to Battier early. This is super important given we saw just how well Atletico Bilbao were able to shuttle across and pin Barcelona up against those touch lines. But instead, with this kind of build-up, Barca are able to establish themselves a lot higher up the pitch without quite the same difficulty. Next, notice Bruchs and Graham Hansen highest on the shoulders of the last defenders, Caldente between the line, and Barca looking to favour building up on this right-hand side, despite the fact that Nevado had done really well thus far against Graham Hansen. But of course, that was typically in 1v1. And then just a little bit of an extra note on Bruchs. With her more central, it gave Barcelona that option to be able to play it straight into her in behind. Barcelona eventually try and rotate the ball out towards this left-hand side. And so now we can finally see that Atletico Bilbao have decided to stop with the 4-1-3-2 and just move to more of a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1, where one of your forwards, near side typically, is going to drop and just help out the rest of their midfield. And so Barca are still playing that same 2-3 or 3-1 shape, with Piña, Mariona and Vicky playing between the line. Okay, so moving on to the 66th minute, I wanted to have a look at what could happen where Atletico Bilbao managed to beat Barca's press and get into an attack in transition. At this point, Barca are playing more of this 4-3-1-2 pressing shape, where you have Mariona marking Giraldez and Bruchs and Vicky are your centre forwards. So again, Barca just deciding that the left-hand left-hand side of the pitch just really isn't that important. However, we see that it actually is quite important because Battier has to cover an insane amount of distance. And so you see her trying to cover that here. However, Atletico Bilbao, after triggering Battier, then decide to go back towards the left-hand side instead. And notice what I mentioned earlier about Nevado. So your fullback has come inside instead, allowing one of your midfielders to be able to drop from that space between the line instead into more of a fullback position. And now your other forwards are looking to try and threaten in behind, with those centre midfielders still looking to try take advantage of that space between the lines. On this occasion, with a little bit of luck, Nevado is able to play an absolutely sumptuous reverse pass. And so remember, Battier, who was trying to jump and press the Atletico Bilbao right back, is now kind of caught in no man's land, allowing Atletico Bilbao to play an absolutely ridiculous through ball. But just as in my video in Eintracht versus Barca, attacks in transition succeed or fail on the decision making and technical ability of those in the counter-attack. And so here, despite Atletico Bilbao having a 4 versus 3, the choice to whip across towards the near post instead of pulling it back into Cerro turned this from an extremely good opportunity into an easy save for Paños. And that was the problem for Atletico Bilbao. They had great opportunities to score, but simply chose the wrong option or couldn't execute the correct option when they had the chance. And with that, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, consider sharing on social media, subscribing, and if you have a suggestion for which match I should have a look at next, leave it in the comments down below. And with that, we're out.